Welcome once again to UK Gaming Network. I'm Zoidberg and I'm here to bring you our top 5 games of February 2016. After a slow indie-fused January, the last 29 days have seen the arrival of some much bigger releases, and the standard has been very high. Every time we thought we had this month's list nailed down, another game would come along, forcing us to rethink the countdown. There have been too many games this month worthy of a recommendation, so in addition to the upcoming top 5, we'll also give a special mention to Ubisoft's Far Cry Primal, Unravel from EA, Earth Defense Force on PS4, the atmospheric Firewatch, and the supremely challenging Devil Daggers on Steam. Xbox One owners also finally got hold of Rocket League this month, but as that's a re-release, it's not eligible for our chart. As ever, only brand new releases are included in our top 5, which for this month is as follows.
Number 5.
Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare was a very divisive title at UKGN. As many of us hated it as loved it. An online shooter that it's actually acceptable for kids to play, Garden Warfare 2 has garnered the same response as its predecessor, but for the fans, and I'm including myself here, this would be my personal game of the month. PopCap have ensured everything that was good about the first game is better in the sequel. The visuals, level design, character customization and play options have all been improved, but the biggest shocker is that they actually managed to include some single player content this time around. The whole game is now presented via a hub world where you can take on missions, allowing new players to learn the basics before they venture online. In fact, the whole package is superb and perfectly balanced, so no matter which character you play as, you'll always stand a chance of success. I'd much rather play this than Call of Duty any day.
Number 4.
It's not often you can call a game unique, but that's exactly what Superhot is. The concept itself is genius. A first-person shooter where nothing moves unless you do. You'll find yourself edging slowly around the levels, dodging bullets and pulling off headshots. And when you complete the level, you're treated to a replay showing how it would have looked at full speed, making you look and feel like a total badass in the process. As the levels get more complicated, it plays like a kind of puzzle game, where you work out the best way to complete each one through trial and error. As you progress from handguns to shotguns to machine guns to melee weapons, it gets more challenging and even more enjoyable, but it also starts to reveal an excellent story that connects everything together. We're not going to spoil any of that here, but it helps the game to pull you in and keep you playing.
Number 3.
Games about survival are 10 a penny these days, but our number 3 game, The Flame in the Flood, succeeds where others have failed by creating an atmosphere of constant fear and danger. Don't Starve is the game that most commonly comes to mind when you're playing it, but whereas that game allowed you to remain in one place, here you're constantly moving downriver on a quest to find refuge. If you miss some vital resources, you can never go back for them, meaning that you have to put a great deal of thought into where you go and what you collect. There are many ways you can die, and death will come often in the first few hours of play. You soon realise that bravely running away is a perfectly acceptable option when you find yourself confronted by a couple of wolves in the dead of night with no means of defence. A special mention should also be made to the excellent art style and moving soundtrack that are a perfect fit to this already very addictive game.
Number 2.
At number 2 we find Street Fighter V, which offers up a further refinement of arguably the greatest fighting system in the history of gaming. Whether the subtle changes made to how it plays and the revised combo system are an improvement on Street Fighter 4 is entirely down to personal choice, but it's still the incredibly rewarding game you expect Street Fighter to be. Recommending the game is easy to anyone who wants to take the fight online. However, there's a disappointing lack of single player content, with only a bare bones story and survival mode on offer. Capcom are promising updates in the coming months that will add a challenge mode and more characters to flesh out the package. This means that when we look back on February at the end of the year, this probably will be the best game that was released this month, but in its current state it feels unfinished. regardless of how fantastic the core gameplay is.
Number 1.
We had feared that XCOM 2 would fall into the sequel trap of being too similar to the original, but Firaxis Games have expanded and improved everything so that it almost feels like a new game. Set 20 years after the events of Enemy Within, this is a much more cinematic title than you'd expect. The way the game camera zooms in and out of the action makes each enemy encounter a thrilling experience. Many of the tactics that you learnt in the original game simply won't work this time, forcing you to think up new ones on the fly. The bond that develops between you and your squad members means that it's truly devastating when one of them falls in battle, something we haven't felt since we played Cannon Fodder. Just as other developers had started to catch up, XCOM 2 has moved the goalposts even further, ensuring that this series remains the pinnacle of turn-based strategy gaming. Let the calls for console versions start here. So that was UK Gaming Network's top 5 games for February 2016. Feel free to disagree and comment below. Thanks for watching, we'll see you next month.